Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the church media designer. Well, I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and join with me celebrating their endless summer. It's the three wise men and Jesus. We got Dwight Schrute, Little Whitey, Colonel Sanders, and of course, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. Well, in this week's episode, we're going to continue our series on 3D text, and we're going to be working on some 3D text with Blender. So if you guys are ready, and if the boys are, getting off the waves one of these days, let's get into it. Well, like I said before, we're going to be continuing our series on doing 3D text, and we're going to be jumping around into a couple different programs. And one program we're going to spend probably about 2 weeks in, maybe 3, depending on how it goes, is Blender. And Blender is an open source free 3D program. Now, I had heard about Blender before I started this series, but I hadn't really worked in it. And I am a 3D Studio Max person. That's what I learned in school, and that's the software that I knew as far as 3D goes. And I haven't done tons of 3D, but I knew enough to like how to use the tools and that kind of stuff. Well, I stepped inside Blender and I was blown away at its set of tools. It is a full-on amazing program. So you can find Blender at blender.org, and when you go to the download tab, make sure to get all of the extra stuff that it tells you you need. So like if you get the installer, make sure you get the for Windows build, you may need to install this official update. Vista doesn't need it, but it's a C++ package. And if you don't have that on Windows XP or earlier, Blender won't work. And so that's what I'm still using. And so just make sure you get that package so that Blender will work for you. If you got Vista, you'll be okay. But this again is Windows, Mac OS X, Linux, the whole 9 yards. So that's great. And one of the amazing things that can show you the detail of this is they actually came out with a film called Big Buck Bunny. And it is unbelievable looking. And you're watching some of the footage right now of what this looks like. This is a trailer, and this was all done inside a free program. There was no money spent on software. This was totally free. So check out Blender. It's a great piece of software. So you can download it from blender.org. And now we're going to step inside and show you some of the basics. So we're going to open up Blender, and you'll see your default scene here. And what you can see right now is there is a box, some sort of dotted circle, and down over here you see something. It's a weird shape. Now what this is a default scene that Blender sets up. And one of the keys to 3D programs is how to navigate inside 3D space. And how to do that per program is a lot different. It was actually a little bit harder to learn this program than I thought, because some things were a lot different than what I was used to inside 3D Studio Max. So the first thing you need to realize is that your center mouse wheel is your friend. And if you don't have a mouse wheel, you need it for 3D. It's very, very important. So if I just click and hold on my center mouse wheel and move around, you can see I'm now moving around in 3D space. And you can see it looks kind of funky, and it's because I'm in an orthographic view. Now what that means is that all lines stay parallel and there's no perspective. So if I switch views to my perspective, I can see now that my perspective view, I have, perspective going on. And if I roll the mouse wheel back and forth, I zoom in and out. If I hold shift and then the mouse wheel, I'll track left and right. I can move up and down. And the objects you're seeing in the scene, there's a box, and then this is actually a light. And the way that I clicked on that is I right clicked on it. Your regular mouse click doesn't do anything to select objects. It's your right click. So you need to right click on that as a light, and then if I right click over here, I'm clicking on the actual camera. And to see what the camera's seeing, we can go down to view and then go to camera. And right now you can see what the camera is seeing. But as soon as I do anything besides, like if I click and hold the mouse wheel, I get popped out of my camera view and I'm no longer moving the camera. So one of the things that's really nice is how much you can customize Blender. So we're going to customize it to kind of meet our needs a little bit. So what we're going to do So we're going to go down here to the bottom, and you'll see our double arrow up here, and we're going to just right click and we're going to do split area. And it's going to give us this divider bar, and I'm just going to click right here in the center, and now it's given us 2 different viewports. And so now we can set one of those viewports to be our camera, and we can set the other viewport to be one that we can actually use to move our camera around and move objects around. So we'll go over here and we'll set the view here to camera, and then we'll zoom in, and this outer line isn't actually your frame. It's this inner dotted line is the frame that's going to render when you do your final scenes. This other line here is your safe area. And we can actually get rid of that down here at the bottom. You can see our camera settings here. And we can set, unclick this title safe button. And now we don't have the title safe zone. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to do this, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but Paspora. Anyway, it basically shadows around the frame that you're actually going to render, and we can kick the alpha of that up so that we're basically just seeing the area that's going to render. And so now our other view we can use to actually move our camera. So I can just click and dolly that back and forth, and now you can actually see it live update inside your camera view. So the amount of customization that you can do inside Blender is really phenomenal. So you can make this program act the way that you want to act, and then actually you can go up to File, and you can actually say Save Default Setting, and that will save the way the program opens up every time. So the first thing we're going to do beyond this is we're going to click on this box, and we're just going to hit delete, and it's going to say erase selected objects, and we're going to be okay with that. So now we're actually going to go in and create our first object. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to hit the space bar, and it's going to pull up a menu for you. And we're going to add text because we're making 3D text here. So now to actually edit that text, I'm going to go down and I'm going to change modes. There's 2 different modes inside Blender. There's object mode and edit mode. So I'm going to switch from object mode to edit mode right here by clicking in this menu. And then I can just delete and I can type 3D text right there on the screen. Now the other cool thing is I can go in and I can load whatever font I want. And by default Blender uses its built-in font, which is like a Arial-ish looking font, but I want Arial Bold because, well, Arial Bold's the bomb. So we're gonna go load, and then I have to go to where my fonts are stored on my computer. Now on a Windows machine, it's gonna be C/Windows/fonts. I actually have a library drive in which I keep all of my fonts because I use a font management program. So I have all these different folders of fonts. So I'm going to go grab a sans serif font, and I'm going to go find my Arial Bold, which is right down here someplace. So I was actually wrong about the font that we're going to use today. We're going to use Cooper Black because we're going to make a nice rounded looking font that's kind of got a ooey gooey kind of juicy feel to it. So we're going to use Cooper Black, which Cooper is a pretty standard font on Windows machines, and I think you can find it out on the web. So anyway, so now we have our text selected, but if you notice, if we go around in our viewport here and we zoom around, you can see our font is flat. It has no depth to it. It's just like a text inside of After Effects. It's that postcard in space. Well, we want to give it depth because we're in 3D. So we're going to go down into our properties panel, and we have right here extrude. And so I'll switch from edit mode back to object mode so I can actually see this take shape. And I'm going to just hit my extrude a bunch of times here, and you'll see my text pop out. So we'll go to like 1.4, looks good. And then we're going to zoom in a little bit so we can see our text, and we're going to set a bevel. So now that we got our text lined up, now we're going to actually add that bevel to it. So we're just going to add a bevel depth, and you can see it's beveling that edge, but it's giving it a flat beveled edge, and we want to round that. So we need to do this below bevel depth. We have bevel resolution, and it's set to 0. And what that does is it actually sets how many steps are going to take place. So how curved is that going to be? And so we're just going to set this to 4 or 5, and it's looking nice and rounded and pretty like juicy looking. So we have our text pretty much done already, and if we wanted to, we could hit the F12 key, and it's going to pop up and it's going to render it. But the problem you see is it's using our camera view always to render that. So what we'll do is we'll zoom out and we'll find our camera here. And if we hit the home key, sometimes your viewport gets all sorts of crazy. We can hit the home key and we can get things a little bit back to normal. So now we're going to just mess with our camera and we'll get it set viewing the text like we want it to. So I'm just going to move this around and play with it a little bit. And one of the things that we can do is we can actually rotate it. And so the way that you do that is you go down here next to the hand tool, there's a triangle which is translate manipulation mode or rotate manipulator mode. And so we want to rotate, and you can just grab, and green, red, and blue are all the different axes, and you can just grab this axis and start rotating your camera. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to rotate this the way that I want to rotate it, which is like this. And then we can switch back to our other mode and move our camera over and move it up a little bit and back. And so now we're starting to see our text like we kind of want to, because maybe we'll do a little flyby or something like that. But at least now when we hit preview, it's going to pull up that text and it's going to look pretty cool. But what you can notice and what we stressed about in Illustrator is having some gradients to work with, so in coloring and all that kind of stuff, so it looks like it has some good depth to it. So the problem that lies right now is our light. So I'm going to show you how to alter your light a little bit. So we're going to right click on our light and we're going to go down and we're going to click on the ball here, which is the shading, and that will allow us to change what type of light it is. And we're going to change this to a spotlight. And if we switch our view to our top view, we can actually see where this light is impacting. So we'll move this light over, and you can see it's kind of rotated right now. So we'll rotate this so it's going straight down for the most part. And sometimes you just got to mess a little bit. And this is very different than a lot of other programs. And so you need to get used to it. And sometimes you're going to get frustrated and it's going to take you more time at first, but you just need to get used to how the tools work. So now we're just going to move this over and we'll zoom in here and move this down a bit so we can see how it's interacting. And we're going to go to our side view, and you can notice our light was actually below that text. So I needed to move it above, and then we'll go back to our top view, and you can see that our light is fully lighting that up. So if I hit F12 again, it's going to render that text out, and it doesn't really look that different. And that's because we need to move it over and we need to rotate it just a little bit towards the text there. So I'm just going to click and rotate up, and then I'm going to hit F12, and you'll notice already we have some good shading going on in the 3D text. Now some of the cool stuff that you can do is we can actually take this light and we can move him over, and we can actually change the size and scope of what the light is hitting. So this setting here is actually the size of the focus area of that beam. And so we can scale that up or down and get that set to the way we want it to. So we're going to scale that down a little bit, but then we're going to scale down this other setting below it, which is the softness and the edge. So it's basically giving you a inner where it's fully bright to an outer where it's fully dark. And so we're going to kick that up quite a bit, and we're going to go and hit F12 and take a look at what it looks like now. And you can see it's totally dark right now. And so what we'll do is we'll just move our light over until it's kind of on top of it. And you can see in our camera view where that line overlaps a little bit. And what we're going to get now is we're going to get some nice shaded text. So you can see how part of the text is visible, but part of it's not. And maybe we want to take that softness down a little bit. And maybe we want to kick up the intensity and hit F12 again. And again, this is all about playing and seeing what you can get out of it. So there's a lot of different things you can do here. Now the final thing that we're going to talk about is actually rendering these files out and how files get rendered. So we're going to jump into our render, and if we click on Scene or hit F10, it's going to pull us into our render area. And so inside After Effects, you know, you would do File, Make Movie or something like that, and it would render out a video. Well, inside 3D programs, you always render out image sequences. So you're either going to render out one image if you just are doing like, hey, I just want 3D text for Photoshop, I just need one image. Or if you're going to take it inside After Effects and do an animation inside here and pull that inside another program, or you just want to do an animation inside here, you always do an image sequence just in case the program would crash or something like that. We do an image sequence so we can go back and say, hey, image number 118 crashed, but at least I have 117 to 1 instead of losing 2 days worth of renders. Because when I was in college, I had renders that took me 3 or 4 days, and I would do it in pieces because it takes so long to render some of these highly intense scenes. So when you do an image sequence, you can just do pieces at a time. I'll just kind of go through these quick settings here. So under format, you can see that our size is 800 by 600. If we click double click, we can get inside and actually change our size by hand. So we could do like 1024, and then we could do 768, and it's going to alter our area. Or we could do that 1024 by 600, it's more of a wide screen. Or there's we could go to HD, or we can do full screen, and it would set those settings for you. Now under here is JPEG, and so you can go in here and do whatever type you want. What I usually use is a PNG or a bitmap because it's not compressed. It's more it's an uncompressed file. Then at the bottom you'll see a BW, RGB, and RGBA, and that's basically is this black and white RGB full color or RGB with alpha, because you can actually export out alpha. And so what we would do here is we're going to do RGB alpha, which PNGs can do alpha, JPEGs can't, and so it would be worthless to do RGB alpha with a JPEG. So we'll do RGB alpha, and then you can see under here we can just do render. But the key is to know where your file's rendering to. So right now it's rendering out to some temp folder. Well, we're going to go and we're going to set this to C, and we'll just set it to our C Documents and Settings, CMD, and where's my desktop? Desktop. Okay, and so we'll do select output for photos, and we're going to hit render, and it's going to render out. It pulls up our render queue, and it's going to render it out. But you can see one problem right now. It's got a blue background to it, and blue is not transparent. So we're going to cancel out of that, and we're going to go down here, and you can see under the render button there's sky, pre-multiplied, and key. And sky basically means it's going to throw in some random sky background for you that you can set inside the program. Pre-multiplied means it's going to pre-multiply your layer with a certain color, and then key is going to be alpha. So we're going to use key, we're going to hit render again, and it's going to render out this file with a transparent background. So if we would minimize the program right now and look on the desktop, we would find no images. And if we had spent a bunch of time making this great image and we wanted to take it into Photoshop and use it, we'd be pretty depressed. And for good reason, it's not on the desktop. And we can change that by doing one thing. So we're going to go to File, go down to Render to Image. We're going to save this file. And so we can hit this little drop down under the P, and we can go to Documents, Settings, CMD, My Documents, or let's go to the desktop and save that there. And so we'll do Save PNG and minimize the program, and now we have that test1 PNG, and you can see that it's been rendered with alpha that we could take inside Photoshop and use it inside there. So what we're going to cover next week is actually how to animate your text and animate it growing out and have the camera kind of zoom past it, and then how to use that inside After Effects. So we're going to render out an image sequence, then we're going to pull it inside After Effects and do some post work inside After Effects with that. So you can look forward to that tutorial next week, as well as a whole bunch of other great stuff coming up next. Well, I'm here at the Collide booth at Echo Conference with
Scott McClellan.
And you are?
Editor of Collide.
Chief Executive Officer and Grand Master of Collide Magazine?
They are saving that for the next performance review. They want me... They want to have somewhere for me to go.
You need to reach a new level of excellence.
Right. So they're kind of dangling. They're dangling the carrot of Grandmaster. So that keeps me hungry, Brad. So
Grandmaster print flash.
Yes.
Something like that?
I love it. I love it.
So Collide Magazine is a church where the church and media collide come together.
Converge, intersect, meld.
What is the tagline? I think I missed it.
It's where media and the church converge.
Converge.
Yes.
So that's the word I missed. So what does Collide offer to a church media professional or volunteer?
Collide, we offer reviews of resources. We offer articles about why to use media and technology, how to use media and technology. We look at trends that are going on either in general culture or in the church, spotlight different churches that are being creative with media and technology. And if none of that suits you, it's a great birdcage liner. It's got a nice, good paper to, soak up some of that birdcage.
If you're camping and you maybe run out of some TP.
Hey, we're all about creativity.
Yeah. And like I was saying, like a teepee, like you needed to create your campsite.
Right.
Because we would never use the other teepee.
I don't even know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it. I don't get that.
Well, and Collide's been really great to us. They've reviewed us and suggested that people should watch the show, which I'm very grateful for as a media producer. So
Absolutely.
I thank you, Scott, for plugging the show.
You're welcome.
So what can we expect? The next issue is the first of the second year, correct?
Yes, the start of year 2, September, October issue. It's actually the design issue.
Okay.
So we are really excited about that. We think it's something we haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah.
And we think it's going to be really cool.
Sweet. So you can find out more information at
CollideMagazine.com. Get a free trial issue. You can subscribe. You can read articles, all kinds of good stuff.
Well, great. So if you guys want to find out more information and get the leading and probably one of the best resources out there for church media professionals, besides, of course, ChurchMediaDesign.tv.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, come on now. You can check out CollideMagazine.com.
Well, in my country of Kazakhstan, we have a site and an inspiration called Abdizdo. Yeah, this week's inspiration is a site called Abdizdo. I don't even know how to say it, but it's Abducted by Design. It's design, inspiration, and tutorials, and he's a big contributor to psdtoots.com, and you can check out his website and all of the great articles and stuff that's going on there. And the reason this is the inspiration is I just finished a new series graphic that I based off a lot of his different tutorials, and it's called The Bold Life. You can check it out here. And it turned out really cool, and I'm really excited about it. And the one thing I was really excited about is I make a lot of tutorials for you guys, and I'm crazy busy with a lot of different stuff, and I don't take time to do a lot of the tutorials I see come through on Google Reader and that kind of stuff. And I actually sat down and took the time to do these tutorials, and I learned so many new things inside Photoshop that I'm looking forward to taking bits and pieces and sharing them with you, as well as I'm going to take time to at least do one tutorial a week, and I would encourage you guys to try and make that a priority as well. So check out Abdizdo in my country of Kazakhstan is an inspiration. He's actually from not Kazakhstan, and that's a really bad impersonation of a movie you should never watch. So that's your inspiration. We want to thank our sponsor of WorshipHouseMedia.com, resources for the creative church. You can head over to Worship House Media and use our promo code of CMDTV1 and get 25% off your order. On the website, you should check out the Quelch Project, which is a collective effort among Christian filmmakers to save lives by building clean water wells in Africa. And this is through Living Water International, and what you get is 11 best-selling mini-movies, 26 stills, 22 motions, one Living Water promotional video, one Vibe video, and one Christmas series trailer. And I mean, this has a ton of great content in it. It's $60, and 100% of the proceeds go to Living Water International. So you're actually helping save lives by getting some content for your church. So check out the Quelch Project and use the promo code of CMDTV1, 25% off at WorshipHouseMedia.com. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Church Media Design TV, and I would encourage you guys to stay in touch. I've loved all the emails I've gotten, and we're going to continue that series on 3D text next week, so tune in for that one. If you want to send me an email, you can hit me up at brad@ChurchMediaDesign.tv. You can leave a comment on the website, And the other thing I would really encourage you to do is Adam got Twitter on his iPhone, and he's been taking pictures the entire time we're taping. So on Mondays while we're or on Tuesday nights is when we tape, you can watch live feed of all of the different photos of what's been going on live during the show. So hit us up on Twitter. It's twitter.com/CMDTV, and you can see all the different great funny outtakes and images and behind the scenes and all of the shenanigans that me and Adam do on Tuesday nights when we tape. So I would love to hear more from you guys about what you want to learn, and I know some of you guys have been asking about Blender, so hopefully this is a good start for you. But if not, stay in touch. And as for me and the Surfing Boys, we're going to say, see you later. Last area, record. I can do this all day. See, I gotcha. Hey. Okay. Laugh track on 3. 1, 2, 3. Stop. Laugh track on 3. 1, 2, 3. Stop.